So the recording started. Yep, should be good. And then we'll go ahead and, personally, if I was in a short position, this is where I would be taking profit below the overnight lows. Personally, that is what I would be doing. The audio is turned on. Yep. Not gonna have another 2-hour stream without audio. Sick. All right, let's get into the questions. We'll get started. Answered that one. And then really quick. All right, cool. Okay, we're gonna go over this example from 6 a.m. real quick before I forget. So this was a 5-minute fractal. So pulling that up because there was a few people looking short here. So let's go hop over to that. Right there. All right. So zooming out a little, you'll notice we were just in this range, right? So that's the main reason why I didn't really like this short setup, is because we haven't taken a range high. If we'd have taken this one, then yeah, retracement or to the other side. But let's hop back to the 5-minute chart and then we will talk about this. So, do we have a valid model? It is a little bit off, right? Because we don't have the change in the state of delivery till down here. So, it is not valid, but we are going to discuss it because of how this price action traded. We can learn off of that. So if we were bearish, what do we want to see? We want to see price open, go up, make a high, then go lower and close, right? So ideally, at the start of a new candle, we continue this little bit of a move up, go close below the down close candles, and then continue. But let's see how this traded, right? You can see right at the start of the new candle, we have these little highs out here. It would be more preferred to go open, take out a high into one of our 3 valid points of interest, expand lower, right? But we don't do that. So what happens? What do we notice? Well, 1, we can't close below here, right? 2, we can't take out, we can't close below these lows either, right? So then, if you've seen my order flow lessons in TT, when we do this, right? Because when we were right here, if price closed over here, then it would be bullish, right? When we're right here, when we close over here, then that is bullish, right? And if you look how it traded, did we go open high, low, close, or did we go open low? And then that is what I'm talking about with where then is our drawn liquidity. It's going to be this wick high, right? Because when it fails, it goes and takes that high. Any questions on that? I'll hop back into chat. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. If you have questions on that, because that's a topic that's not explicitly discussed in the course. We talk about it in all the live streams though, right? We want to see it trade higher into the point of interest when we're looking short, because we're letting the wick of that higher time frame candle form, right? Okay, cool. So let's go to the next question. Right here, in what condition should I anticipate price? In what condition should anticipate price is already losing momentum and expanding? I'll take a screenshot of this and then we can kind of talk about it and see if I'm interpreting this correctly. So we'll go over here so we have more room. So here's the screenshot. And you're wondering why it's not holding here. Well, first off, right, here is candle 2, right? We get the candle 3 expansion, Seems like we're just about to those standard deviations and above old highs, right? Now this is another thing. If we were going to anticipate this to trade higher, we'd want to see it move lower first, which it does. Does it reach a relevant point of interest? It does. Does it form a swing and then go close over here? No, right? So I don't know why, because I can't see more, why it failed to go higher here. But I know if I'm utilizing the model and the intra-candle change in the state of delivery, it would keep me out of trading this candle 4. And you'll also see why I like candle 3 better. So hopefully that answered your question. Is there a scenario where you'll trade it if it goes lower? On the one I just showed here, this one? Well, if the model forms in the other direction, right? Because this forms a swing on the higher time frame. It's a swing on a higher time frame as well, right? But you see how this candle basically expands. And then do we close below here? No. So then we are just now stuck in this range here because there's no actual direction, if that was what you were referring to. I have not gone over your question yet. I do not think. Let's go ahead and continue. In general, for fractal model, 15 to 1 minute, if candle 2 forms a swing higher low, closure at 9:15. Would you avoid looking for entry at candle 3 since, so that is totally dependent on if 9:30 sets up a candle 2, or like for example, let's see if we can go look at today. Where's 9:30? There. Right, we'll pull up the 15 and I'll just remove all these trends. So for example here, this is nothing that I trust, right? There's no protected low setup prior to 9:30 to allow for movement, right? Does that make sense? Let me check the chat. Right, we formed a swing here, yes, right? But that is not a good candle 3 closure, right? We can't engulf this previous candle. So then we wait for 9:30 because if the manipulation doesn't happen prior to 9:30, then it occurs at 9:30. And then so if you go back in chat, I talked about which way do I think price is likely to go, right? Because I was pretty undecided before, but when 9:30 moves lower, right, that's when we anticipate the move higher, right? Look at 8:30. 8:30 moves higher, forms a little order block here. We consolidate / move lower. 9:30 goes there. So let's see if the model forms, right? Okay, we gotta wait for the closure. Do we close? Yes. So we close inside there. Now with this, since we're closing in the highs, we don't want to see this wick be touched because then price isn't bullish anymore. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So marking it out, we have our order block here. That's what forms that wick, right? So going into this candle here, right? Where would we not anticipate price to be going to? If it goes below here, we're wrong, right? And ideally, price is supported in the upper half of this, right? This order block here. Does that make sense? So then let me adjust this so it stops moving around. And right there, right? Get that little sweep inside there. Any early longs wiped out. Now let's see, do we close over this? Right? Because if we're looking at the order flow, we move lower first to make this wick, but then we take out a high. So then retracement, where do we go? We seek liquidity. There's none really resting here besides this low here on a smaller time frame. Right? So then we kind of chop around. This would be valid if we came in closed over this, right? Because it's reaching back into this propulsion block. Let's actually go candle by candle. right? If with this move down, we're reaching back into one of our 3 points of interest. So if we close over this, it is valid to continue higher. We can't. Now we make a new low. So then now this is going to be our order block. That's a possible entry. Once we close over, now we anticipate if we're going to continue higher in this candle, this low shouldn't be touched, right? You see how we never formed a validated low in this candle until now? And then we get a continuation, right? Now what do you notice about this candle? Moves higher first, and then just kind of chops around, right? Because quite a large range. But hopefully that answers your question. You took that one? Nice. Yeah, so propulsion block, all it is an order block off an order block, right? So when we validate this order block here, and then we form an order block off that, I prefer to have a fair value gap there too. But then the mean threshold of that should be respected, right? Or be sensitive, right? Does that make sense? It's kind of what I teach always, right? Because the way we trade, we're trading those propulsion blocks or order blocks during the expansion. Okay. So took out internal high, made a low, then goes high again. Yeah, so we've talked about this a couple times in various streams. But when we're going to get a retracement or reversal, right? Is there any reason that we just get a retracement or reversal in here with just leaving these highs up here? Not really, right? And we can zoom out, right? That's why I had that one marked out, right? Now, once we take this, that is where we can get that retracement reversal, right? Expansion into a new phase of price delivery. At first, this looks like a reversal, right? Very aggressive down. Then we just kind of consolidate. Move back up, sweep out the consolidation first before going, right? So the entry point of that trade would be the highest blue line. So yeah, let's go over a few different ways you could enter this. So there's a few ways. You could enter it just on the retest of this order block, right? Your stop would have to be below here, or at least below the mean threshold here, because if price is going to go higher, shouldn't go close below this, right? So that's one possible entry. The reason I don't really like that is just because if we're going to take out a high, I want to have 2R to there, right? So waiting for that, we already took out that high. If we're still bullish, then this one makes a little more sense. This would be, there's been a few people asking about swing entries, so let's talk about that. Why would this one make sense? Well, we just talked about it. This was our current invalidation going into this candle. So if we're going to respect and move higher, we got to form a swing low in here, right? So when we sweep out these in here, make a candle to closure right off the mean threshold, like this is ideally where we have to form that swing. Otherwise, we're going to drop lower, take out this, right? So that's when it's possible to take a swing entry. The next entry would be, okay, we close over there, entry there, stop on that low, or you can use the order block low body, 2R, right? And then on this, I'd want to zoom out a little. Does that make sense in terms of the higher time frames? Well, we have till here and here, right? Then going back, oh, we're on the 1 minute. Right, then going back, there we go, right? And if you wanted to, you could hold runners too, there. Right, let's see. And they would have gotten stopped out, right? Does that make sense? So there's quite a few entries in there. The one I try to focus on for people learning the model would be this one, after we validate this low within the candle. Hopefully that makes sense. Where would the invalidation of the one shot, one cut? Okay, so we can talk about that. So I posted yesterday. This is actually, I meant to go over this anyway, so this will be good. So you can get a little homework here if you want, because I'm not going to go search for one right now. But we do have a candle closure here, right? Now the first thing we notice is generally on a reversal day, we either want this wick to be smaller or we want to close lower in the lows, right? So go take a look at this structure versus, let's see if I can pull up something, maybe like GBP USD. Because I know I was watching the hour. Is that really, yeah, right here. This is just an example off the top of my head, so it's not amazing. But take a look at, see that swing point. I would still prefer to have left that, but closes decent. But you see this reversal structure here, and then it holds higher, right? Versus, let's take a look at this reversal structure here. See how it's just choppy? So ideally, if I was going to like paint a picture of what I would have preferred this to look like when it was right here, we have SMT on the high, right? And then we can consider this as our change in the state of delivery because of the SMT. So ideally, what happens is we don't really see price trade higher to this within this day, right? Ideally, we see a smaller retracement and then moving lower, and like we just close near the lows here, right? And then what does that allow for? That allows for us to either form a little retracement into the next day, into this previous range, to then get on side with a short, or, you know, there's a few different scenarios. And actually, I just thought of a better one. We can just go to the trade I took last week, right? Here we go. Like, take a look at this closure and structure versus ES and NQ today. You see how the daily, right? We do get the expansion, but you see how we close very bearish, right? We take a look at this structure. We'll mark out this one, or we can use the 4 hour. That'll clean it up a little. But you see how this structure is like a lot cleaner, right? Aggressive out, takes highs, aggressive down. Right, and that sets up the ability to have a retracement back into the range, right? And then get on side with a short setup, right? Or we take a look at this reversal structure the other way, right? Right here, we confirm that low, right? And you see how we get aggressive down. This isn't really great, but that's just the overnight session, and then close over, right? You see how the difference in structure there versus looking at something like, well, what tab was I on? Like NQ here, where we don't really get any follow through, right? And the fact that we came and closed or broke this high here is not what you want to see, right? We can go to a 30-minute to explain this. Just drop down, right? So we have this opposing candle we form, right? It's going to be slightly different on this time frame. When we close below it, we don't want to see this high taken, right? Then we retrace back up into it, and then we close below here. Now, if we're in an expansion or directional order flow, this high shouldn't be taken. So when we come back up and sweep out this high, that's where the little clue is like, okay, that's not great, right? We don't really want to see that. And then the fact that, let's go over this. Because I posted this morning, and let's go over it. So we do get this little sweep here, right? Let's talk about this. Sweep and then close below here. Now, the one thing I want to talk about here, which did happen, which wasn't very helpful, was on something like this where you have it kind of messy, you can just zoom out and look at a higher time frame closure, right? So this worked, right? So that's your London setup right there. Candle 2 closure, London drops down, which is fine. But what I want to talk about here is, yes, we took out this high, and that would have worked as a high of the day if this structure over here wasn't so crappy, right? If we would have closed lower and then, left an imbalance or this opposing candle here alone, and then we get this retracement up here, and then we get a drop, that's perfect, right? And I can find a quick example of exactly that. Actually, wait, let's see. Let me see what day it is. Go to Euro, see if I can remember. Here we go. It's going to be this day. So let's walk through this. We'll just use another example of the structure here, because that's like the main reason why I didn't like today, right? So honestly, the structure isn't amazing, but let's see how we trade here, right? So the main thing is, we can zoom out a little, the 4 hour, we close below there, change in the state of delivery. So now we should see this high being left, right? Reaches into imbalance, that makes sense, previous day. So if we're looking for an intra-candle change in the state of delivery here, you see this is like the same exact structure we have on NQ, but what do we notice about this price action here? We actually have some structure to it where we sweep out these highs, right? And then right here where it's the next candle, right? Then we get this move lower, right? And so similar structure there, you see how it opens, goes higher, but this one we actually have some structure and a point of interest versus if we go back to NQ, where are we at? Here. We don't really have that here, right? We lack a point of interest. So that's why when we reach lower, this is a little sign. When we sweep out a low here, can't close lower. And then false move, displacement. And at this point, it's just consolidation, right? And then you can view it as two ranges. This range here, right? Or you can view it as this range here. Both kind of work there. Does that make sense? I just wanted to like kind of really focus on the structure on the 1 hour. But in terms of the invalidation, once we come back, like that kind of invalidated it for me, right? That structure. But on a normal given day, we'll just talk about this. If we were to come up and then go above this or close over it or disrespect it, that's where it invalidates for me. And then also another thing here, I use both, but ideally I want to see it respect 0.5 of this, which doesn't really line up with anything. So it's just kind of a messy day overall, right? As you can see, have we gone anywhere? No, not really, right? We take a look at the open. I don't even need to mark it out, it's on the chart, right? We're just kind of coming back to open. Yeah, we have been consolidating. Within consolidations, you look at the edge of the range. And so the two valid ranges, there, right? Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of like you see the closures, that makes sense. You just want to watch the actual structure, because when it's obvious, that is when you want to actually be looking at it. All right, let me find a new question. Touch on the start of the flowchart. Can you touch on the start of the flowchart fractal model with potential swing formation specifically? I mean, we can go over it. It's kind of, unless you have a more specific question, it's really just looking for one of the 3 points of interest and then a swing forming, right? So ideally I'm identifying bias from the daily time frame, and then I'm looking for those swings to form on the hourly, right? So you can see here, yes, we took out this high, but we kind of lack that, oh, we're in a consolidation, take the edge of the range, right? So if we would have just, instead of moving down here first, just that, and we would have just, opened up, took this high, then displaced, then I would have been more considerate of it, but just how we traded in here. I think that was McGuire. If you have more questions, just open up your questions tab, or in your journal, just tag me and we can work through it. So what would you want to see the daily close if we were to trade the one shot, one kill tomorrow? I mean, honestly, not very interested, but if we're going to trade tomorrow, I'm likely going to focus on a slightly higher time frame to clean this up. So on the 4 hour here, right, I want to trade ideally back to the weekly open just this week. That's what I'm leaning towards. So when we take out this high, I'd want to see if we can close below here, right? And if I pull up my week Wednesday tab here, you can see I'm just really not the biggest fan. I'm pretty sure there's SMT here, but we left these lows here. I'm just not a biggest fan of trading off those, and Monday expansion doesn't really set up clean for a Tuesday reversal. So that's why I was looking for Wednesday, but then Wednesday sweeps. So then, this is what you get for this is actually 3 drives, and how I define it. I'm going to add that to my course, but when you have a candle 2 closure, and then fails again, that's what I consider 3 drives. But once again, I have to see if there's any lower time frame confirmation that actually supports that, right? But if you just look at the past 3 days price action, we've swept highs, right? And we have lows left, right? So we have that previous day. And so then we'll have a higher time frame imbalance right here as well, right? That's your daily fair value gap that's forming. Yeah. So obviously I don't know, and I don't post anything until I wake up in the morning because I don't see the closures before I go to bed. Oh, it's just hanging around. Yeah. If we're in a trade and hit 2 hour, in order to trail our stops, let's say. I mean, yeah, you can. So for example, trailing stops to these lows down here, let's go over them just because that is an example. Go to the 1 minute and we'll actually just clean it up. So this is where we formed a candle 2 closure, right? And then it's very messy in here, but this is the start of that new candle where we make a move higher, right? And so then this is forming the wick. Let me see if I can actually pull up a bunch of these. Right, candle 2 closure, right? This doesn't do much here. And then on the new candle, when we trade higher, the way I view this is if we're going to trend down here, opposing candle should be respected, right? So close below there, this high should be respected. Close below here, this high should be respected. Close below here, this high should be respected. Close below here, this high should be respected. Right there, that high should be respected. There we go run out the lows, right? And then we get that little V-shaped recovery, which sets up a reversal, right? Then we have a candle 2 closure to the other side. This would have been more ideal. This is what I'm talking about with demanding stuff from the market. I don't like this as a true break higher. The only way I would have traded this is if we would have traded into this low, right? I think I was talking about that this morning with someone, right? I wouldn't trade this because I demand that from the market. But if I'm on the 5 minute and I want to trail my stops to this low, sure, I can drop down to a lower time frame. I think where people run into problems is they try to micromanage it too much, right? I think many people have experienced that. All right, let's go back to the live stream questions. Covered that one. Is this a valid loss? All right, let's take a look. This is the hour chart that we were just talking about, so I think it will be fine to cover, right? So this is again, just the structure, right? If this is a different day with cleaner structure, this is likely high a day right, in London, and then runners before New York, or like partially before New York retracement continuation, right? Like different day, this is the trade of the day, right? It's just this structure in here that is lacking, right? So I like the idea there. It's just, yeah, we kind of just talked about that. So if you have more questions about that, throw that in your journal or in the question section, tag me, and I will kind of help you out with it or make a short video for you. Can you talk about anticipating price, where it will go in a choppy market? So when price is choppy, I prefer to stay away, right? But what you can do is understand the phases of price delivery, right? Because if you understand those, then you can kind of see some setups, right? For example, so right here, we get expansion. Are we going to enter a new phase of price? Yeah. So let's see. Are we going to get retracement, reversal, or some consolidation? Well, when we're drifting up here, this is just consolidation for me. So just marking out the consolidation range. What do we know about consolidation? I'm not touching it inside the range. My focus is on a purge of the outside of the range. So when we take this range higher, now we can enter a new phase of price, right? So consolidation, purge the high, want to see the other side of the range, which we get, right? Now right here, right? I think SMT on the high. This is just more consolidation. True, this is just a breakout, right? And that's what I mean. This isn't clear, right? You go look at other phases of price here, right? Expansion, don't really consider that. Consider that a reversal or retracement. That met with that, that's a reversal. That's a wick on a higher time frame. Let's go to like a 4 hour. It'll be like a 8 or 12 hour. Right, there's your wick on the higher time frame. So a lot of it is that, as well as when price is going in one direction, I'm focused on order blocks or the lack of forming order blocks. So I've made quite a few examples on that, but for example, let me see if I can just find one here, right? So right here, aggressive down. So new phase of price. Do we retrace, consolidate, reversal? Here we kind of consolidate, then reversal. Not a huge fan of that structure, right? So I leave it. But anyways, expansion met with expansion is a reversal, little consolidation. Anyways, we start the trend up. Now, unless we go and close below here, then it is still bullish, right? Once again, we make a new high here. Unless we close below here, bullish. Right here, right? And this is something where, do I really consider that because that's just a larger series? I personally don't, like that. So like a good example of this would be gold today. Why I wasn't interested in it. I know many people were, but the reason I wasn't interested in shorting gold is one, the closure, but two, I'm not bearish on gold until we close below here, right? Like price is still bullish for me. Yes, there's lower time frame trends in here, but on the higher time frames, this is still bullish. So that's, I'd say, phases of price delivery mixed with order blocks, sweeps. Candle 3 confirmation. I think we went over a few examples today. What are we in? We can go back to NQ. I mean, let's see. I was watching the 1 minute here, so I don't know what the 5 looks like, right? But let's take a look at this. Why I wouldn't really be interested, unless I'm trading this on a lower time frame, is this is our candle 2. We have that candle 2 closure, right? We get that retracement up. This is what we want to see, right? But if you notice, when we form this order block here, we're already taking the lows, which is not interesting to try to trade a limit when we already take the lows. This is my goal with trading, is I want to be in here. Let me draw it with different colors. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Right, you've probably seen this drawing from AM. Yeah, we'll go black. I want to be trading this move here down. Where I'm not really interested in is after we've already made this move down, trying to trade a limit off of this, because that's where we get stopped out most of the time. Yes, it can work, but then if this is going to work, why wouldn't I just wait for another swing to form, you know? So that's like the foundation of my model is why try to pick this high here when I can let it form, and if it's going to go to this low, trade the continuation off of it. So hopefully, let's see. I mean, defining the order blocks, that's all in my course. It has to reach into a valid point of interest, order block fair value gap high low, close below. And then you pair it with the swings, right? Let me check the chat, see if there's any questions. Took this long on EU, ended up being a loss. Let's go take a look. Euro USD, we're already over there. All right. So once again, we can see what have we done prior to New York daily profile wise and just phases of price. Expansion. Do we get retracement reversal? Consider this kind of a retracement to previous candles range, right? But this is just chop, right? Just chopping around. So how do we approach that? Looking at the edges of the range. If your bias is bullish, you want to be focused on the lows, not the highs. I don't want to buy above highs if I'm bullish. I want to buy below lows if I'm bullish. So looking at this swing, let's see where you actually took an entry. Oh, right there. Let's see. Where are you? What time are you trading that? Oh, that's London. Let's pull it up. Maybe my broker is different. What broker are you using for this? Oh, I see. You're using this. Right there. Sure. I would say the one thing this is kind of lacking is we are still trending down within this daily profile, right? So the better thing to wait for is, okay, if I'm bullish on this day, I want to not try to pick the low of this wick, but I want to let this wick form and then get on side with the body of this move, right? Hopefully that makes sense, right? I'm not trying to pick the low. You can if it's very specific, right? Where, hey, the low needs to form here. This price action here doesn't really tell me that we need a low right here. So yes, the London kill zone, that works. So, I mean, we can go through it. Let's go through it real quick and let's see how you traded it. Right, since it is pretty mechanical. So let's see if we change the state of delivery here. We do. One thing I don't like about this is I would need another swing to form in here, right? So I would need another swing to form in here to interest me because we already took out these previous highs, right? If we would have just closed here, hadn't taken out these highs, then I'm more, I'm better off. Like I am comfortable longing right into that because I haven't hit my first target. But anyway, let's see how it works. You can see if we're waiting for a swing to form, we'd want to see price trade lower at the start of the candle, right? Or in this case, change the state of delivery, then come form a low. So let's see. Now you can see we've taken out this high as well. Put our projections on just to see what's up. Right. So we do have highs over there. Here's our -1. Nothing very interesting for me here because I want to position myself around the wick of the candle, trade the body, right? The body's already forming. Well, then it's just something I miss, right? Right here, this is a little bit concerning. Why? Well, if price is going to trade higher, we don't want to see bearish changes in the state of delivery, right? So then to me, this is like, okay, now if we're going to go form a swing here, this is a bearish to go take out that low. And yeah, we just go. So I think the idea is there. If you wait for the swing and then an order block to form in this candle, you stay out of this idea. If that's helpful. I mean, we can go take a look at this rip forward to New York, right? Because we're just in this range, right? Or we're just making a range. So if we're still bullish, we just set up equal lows. I am not a fan of a shallow sweep like that, personally. Some may consider that changing the state of delivery. I see that as expansion, retracement to make another move down. Let's see. Could be wrong. Might be wrong. Looks like I'm wrong. Anyways, can't win them all. Let's see. Something I'd miss. There we go. So now we get, what was that? 10. That's pretty insane candle. Anyways, I would not get on side with this within the model. We'd have to wait for the closure. And that is not great price action. But let's see how it closes and we'll walk through it and see if we can find something out of it. All right, there we go. So this is how we are closing, technically a candle 2, right? Now with a move higher like this, I want to be focused on the upper half per my course. Now, if I don't want it to reach much below here, do I have any invalidation? I do, here, right? Sweep out a low, close over. Order block. So price, I'd want to see it trade higher from either just this area here or lower. So there's two things I look for here, right? This is one of those scenarios where it could be possible that we don't really form a large wick here because this is setting up that low, right? So I'd prefer it to happen 5 minutes later, but that's fine. We have a point of interest. So there's two scenarios here. We either, let me draw it out. Oh, did we already close over? Oh, we already closed over barely. So I could look along here, but let's say this candle hadn't formed or closed over. There's two scenarios I look for because I'll still explain it. If we can't close over this, we are likely to sweep out the low again into here. We form a swing in there to go higher, right? Since we closed over, this is one of those where I'd honestly just expect it to just straight expand. A lot of consolidation here, but let's see what happens. Right? So we do get that close over. If this is then a validated low, where do we anticipate it to respect? 0.5 of this, sure. Order block, reach off the order block. That's a little propulsion block. Don't always consider those within my model, those specific ones that don't reach a certain point of interest. But then if I'm anticipating this to be the expansion candle, when do I expect this expansion to go to? 12, right? So say I'm in that, there's a second possible lower time frame entry. And I missed it a little bit, but if I was just going to look, you can see, don't really put in a nice low, so it's just this, right? But hopefully does that help going through that? Aquamatic? I don't know how to say it. Does that help kind of working through that? So sweep out a low. Yeah, there is no low without a swing low. Like this on this time frame isn't a low. You only have a low when it's a swing low. These are all lower time frame swings lows because that's how candles form, right? The whole fractal part of this is we're trying to trade the hourly. So let's say I drop down to the 1 minute, those are all going to be swing lows, or 30-second. You go low enough and that will be a swing low. Anyways, guess not that one. Every time price reverses, it forms a swing low, so you just look at all the time. Not all the time frames, but yes, correct. For the fractal model, does the reversal need to happen at a point of interest on a higher time frame? So let's go over that because I got that question earlier as well. Let's go back to NQ, for example. So we can take swing lows and swing highs. So like I can take swing highs and swing lows. I don't know what you mean at a higher time frame point of interest. Can you explain that? Because I will walk through how I view the model, but people have variations of it in scalping. Yeah, you want a point of interest. It doesn't need to be a higher time frame one per se, but like if I'm on the 15-minute chart, I'm not trying to just, catch random swing lows, right? This one works, swept out a low. Do I like this one? Not really. Right? I don't really like that one short. Just because we fall just shy of this, right? But if you have like valid points of interest, high, low, that'll keep you out of a lot. Because let me find an example that fails, or maybe we can just go to a 1 minute. No, I'm trying to find just good examples. I don't know. Do you kind of get my point there? Yeah, it's just all the points of interest in the course. Those are what I use to look for swings to form. Okay, cool. Back to questions. Let's see. Is this loss something we can bake into the model? I find this happening where on candle 3 we are looking for an OB to be put in, CSD to occur, we get that and then get stopped out right before the real move occurs. Okay, let's talk about this because you probably hear me talk a lot about a low you can trust, right? So where it's not mechanical is, yes, it can reach into like a very small fair value gap and I won't trust it because I'm like, okay, I don't really see that as like a move down because it's more so just consolidation, right? So let's take a look at this because mechanically, let's see. Or maybe I can pull it up on my chart. I don't know when this was. It's on replay mode 19th, 2 days ago. Do we just pull it up on the chart? Yeah, we can pull it up on the chart. Monday 11, yes. Monday 11, right here. Monday 11. Trading 1 hour, 5 minute, I think. That's what you were looking at. Yeah, 1 hour, 5 minute pairing. So I'm assuming you were looking, you're looking bullish off this one. Okay, yeah, cool. So you were looking bullish off of here. So let's walk through it. So the one thing I don't like, and you guys will hear me, there's times where trading after a very large expansion candle makes sense in terms of volatility. Where I don't like taking it is when we already take out all these old highs to the left, right? Personal preference, you can study that for yourself, but does it meet the requirements for the model? Yes, it does, right? So then looking at the start of a new candle, we move higher first, sweep this out, so then makes sense to have a retracement, right? And then there, right? So this is what you were looking at. Now here, when we want to see a reversal, we want to see aggressive down, aggressive up, right? You'll see that pretty frequently from me. I don't want to see consolidation or like it's very hard for them to close over this, right? I think that's the best way. So that looks good right there, right? I'm like, okay, we respect 0.5 of here, engulf this. I'd want to see the next candle go close over this, right, to continue higher. Okay. Okay, there we close. So yes, I could consider this, and I would just be wrong, right? It would be a valid loss. And in this case, if I was going to take something, I would personally refine my stop down to there, because form to swing, right? So if I was going to take this, that would be that. Let's see. It fails, right? Pretty sure. Yeah. I don't know what's at 11:55 or what. That would just be a valid loss, right? Like that's following the model mechanically. Candle 2 closure, valid loss. The only thing that I could mention on this is that zooming out, when we take old highs, right? That's where I expect a larger retracement. So then waiting for just kind of a higher time frame candle to retrace, right? Because if you look, we just made most of that range in one candle. But like, there's not really much I can say on that because that's valid, right? So can't say much. That's just a valid loss. When do you decide to put your stop loss at high-low? When you put it on the wick? It's all based off of if I have a new opposing candle forming or a new invalidated or like invalidation point. Do you think that 4 hour is a better time frame than H1 in determining trend in general? I think that's totally going to be a personal question. I personally like the hour better. I'll use the 4 hour if the hour is not clean, just to zoom out a little. But that's all personal questions, I think. So you just posted this one. I would not consider this at all, and let's explain why. And then we'll also go over trading view settings, templates and stuff, because I know that was in the stream that got cut off. There's no valid closure here to be looking long in candle 3. Candle 3 doesn't tell me it's bullish yet, right? So like, this is something I'd let go because the way I view it is, okay, we're kind of trapped in here. Swings on both sides of the range. We're in the exact middle of it. Without any higher time frame context, that's just not something I'm looking at. Like, I'm not interested in that. And yeah, you could use this, changing the state delivery here, but that's another thing where it's like, it's up here, right? So that's why it's like, it doesn't really make sense to use something like this, because when I get the change in the state delivery, we're already near our targets. So that's why it's like, that's just something I'd let go. Like, I'm not going to catch that, and that's fine. Let's see. I already moved from it, so I can't tell. So, any other questions? Or we can hop into TradingView charts and settings and kind of go over that one more time. Since this price action is pretty lame, there's not much to talk about on it. How do you get those 3 candle lines? So that is TradingView settings. We can go over that if you guys want. I'm going to timestamp 54 minutes when we start that. So then I'm just going to put it in here. If you guys want to go back and find this, but let's talk about it. These are all my daily charts, and on this case they were weekly because I was watching oil. Right, so this is where I just do my analysis, where it's like, okay, if there's nothing here, I don't even go to my next tab. The only thing I have set up here is just a daily chart, so there's not really much to go over here. Now with this is going to be my weekly profile tab. And so at the start of each day, so I'll just do tomorrow. Since it's Wednesday, I would go up here to my Wednesday tab, and that would load in 3 daily candles, weekly candle, right? Since tomorrow is going to be Thursday, I'll go ahead and just put Thursday on there to show you how it switches, right? So you can see now we'll have 4 candles. Right? And why did I label them this way? It's just so they're in sequential order. But that allows me to, if I have a daily closure I like, to see the weekly profile, right? So I only have the weekly open marked up there because that's all I really need. Now how I set this up is I do have the paid version. There are free versions. In the TT lessons section, I linked all the ones, but this would be my daily candles. So I have 4 of them. Just the open close time, right? That allows me to have those vertical lines to separate the days. And then I just have 1 weekly candle, right? And these ones, I think I offset by 3, right? And that just gives me a little space between that and that. So then what I'd do is I'd go in here and I'd save that as a template, and then I'd star it. And so then it's up here. Any questions on that one before I go to the next indicators and layouts I got? I'm not seeing any. Cool. So back to that. So that is I go from daily to my weekly profile with the hourly chart. And then this will just be the hourly, and it always has 4 candles up. So this is what I just watch every day, where I'm like, okay, if I'm looking short on oil, long on gold, I can see both on this chat, or not chat, this screen, right? And then if I see something that I want to take, that's when I go to my dedicated ones. So for instance, I was like, okay, I want to short oil here. I would just go to my oil tab. Now in here, I have it different sometimes, but I normally have an hourly chart up here, daily, and then this will be a 15-minute with the daily candle. Now settings for that, this will just be that daily candle indicator. I do add the open line because I use the open on that current day. And then the exact same setting for here, but only 1. And then if I'm gonna go look for an entry, then I can just go down to the 5-minute. And so for instance here, if I was going to be shorting oil in here, the model, let's see if it caught it. It did. That's an ideal, no, it might not be ideal formation. Hold up. Oh, nice. Looks like an ideal formation, right? So then trading the next candle, right? What would I look for? Well, do we go make a high I can trust? Yes, we respect 50% of this. Then when we close below here, now I don't expect this high to be taken within this time frame. So any entry in here with my stop up there is valid, right? We close lower, continue to close lower. So then, there it goes. So that's how I go from my watching time frame to like my entry time frames or charts, right? And so I have one for gold. It gets messed up a little because when I'm sharing my screen, right? Because when I'm teaching, it will be messy. But I have one for oil, gold, NQ, ES, and then I have a divergence for NQ and ES, and I also have a divergence for gold and oil, or not gold and oil, gold and silver. And I don't use divergences for oil. So any questions on those? The dashed line on the 5-minute chart is referring to the 1 hour. Correct. So that is built into the indicator. So if we go back to gold or oil, for example, when this dashed line right here, that's just showing me the open of the current high hourly candle, right? So if I go back here, right, we watch it. Well, where is my current? We'll just walk through this example. This is my current invalidation. I want to see, I don't want to just short this because my stop needs to be on the high. I could, right? If I believe in this, I can short there, stop there, there. Say a 2R, we'll just put it in as an example. Awesome, cool. It looks so cool, catching the high. Sweet. I prefer to let this wick form. Now that we've formed this order block, I anticipate this wick to be invalidated. So now I can take any entry here. So let's say I just enter there, I stop there. You can see, need just a little bit more on 2R there. If I take that, or if I am going to take the retest, in this case I would just take the market entry. But then you can see our 2R is relatively the same. Right there. Now I'd want to see, can we go close below here? Okay, we do. Get continuation. And then, you know, we hit our first take profits. You can align that with projections as well. What indicator? That is, if you check the TT lessons, it should be pinned in there. Let me do a quick check. Yeah, it's the one pin message in there. So you're going to have a lot of similarities between the foundation model and the fractal model. It's hard to do a direct comparison sometimes, right? Because they're very similar. But where the foundation model will catch a move and the fractal model won't is on these days like this. The foundation model will catch that. We can go into here. Right, and then if we get on side with a 15-minute, depending on the time, that is horribly messy, but the foundation model can get on side with the reversal day. The fractal model waits for the day following, right? So the next day. So that's like the main differences. I'm not going to catch, example here, I wouldn't catch this expansion day here. This next one, sure, right? I won't catch this reversal day. I'll catch this one, and then possibly that one, right? I'm not going to catch this reversal day. I would be in that one, and then this one, right? So that's the main differences, but they're very similar in that. Where the main differences was with entries is it's the same thing as the foundation model will catch that entry on the reversal, while the fractal model won't. Right, so there are pros and cons to that, but 15-minute window is for determining London, New York. So I kind of use a difference between an hour. That is more like Asia. Like if I'm going to be looking at an Asia reversal, it's like hour 30 minutes, right? Like I'm not going lower than that. London, 15, not really gonna go lower than that. So 15 or 30. Sometimes hour, but a lot of times with London reversal in the hour, you're gonna have too large of a stop. I'd rather wait for New York. New York is when I generally like the 5-minute, and the reason for that being is if we have a New York reversal, then we have a 5-minute change in the state of delivery, and we just go. One, I will not catch that on an hourly, right? Because the hourly will just be huge, right? And it'll already be done. Right, 15 can sometimes happen, but same thing as hourly, it'll miss some. I found the 5-minute to be the sweet spot for the manipulation or reversal, and then the 15 is very solid for New York continuation, right? So if we have London reversal, New York continuation, that's when it works okay. Does that help? Because we're at an hour or a little over, so I'll probably hop off soon, but if you guys have any other questions, we'll obviously go through them all. Okay, I'm gonna go over, okay, let's see. make use of the 15-minute? I mean, it depends on my entries. I will sometimes use the foundation model entries within a daily profile. But I can also just let this swing form and then trade the 1 minute after. Or I can just use the hour and the 5 minute. It really depends on suiting your own personality. So do we not wait for candle? No, you do want to wait for the candle closure within the fractal model. That's the whole point, is you're not catching the high or the low, you're getting the first or second distribution. Does that make sense? Right. So, have we done anything? No. Just retrace back up. Right, like this is not very entertaining to trade. Not entertaining, but just not fun. The slow grind up. The funniest part is most people just get stopped out in here. Unless if they just enter and have an actual stop. Not down there, but you know what I mean. Alright, I think I have all the questions answered. Unless you guys have anything else, I'll probably end it here and market float up. Yeah, of course, I hope it was helpful. No, the 1 hour to 5 works a lot of the times. Like there's many instances of the hour 5 minute working. It's just, I mean, let me see if I can find a good example just right now. I think that was New York. Or trying to find the one that I liked. It wasn't that. Yeah, that one was it. Like here's an example. Here we have a candle closure, right? Highs. So dropping to the 5, letting this reversal form. I don't need to catch that, right? That's the foundation model entry. That's where AM entered on this trade, right? This is going to be a lower time frame order block that gets retested. Let's see if we can show that. 1 minute, right? That's what a wick is on a lower time frame. But anyways, even if we miss that one, just waiting for a down close candle, right? Down close candle. Okay. Now we sweep out a low, right? Do we close over? Nah, I'll use that one. Cool, we close over. Take my stop there. There or there. Use that for example. The highs. These two are. And then we actually went over this whole example live. If we go back to my TT lessons chat, we can find that where I talked about that. You know what's happening? Yeah. Okay, so we'll just take a look. Right, like that's what we were talking about. Order block forms. Then right there, it's like push higher from there, because why does it need to be there? Well, because if we're going to continue in a trend, we're respecting down close candles, 0.5 of that. So when we reach into there, displace back out, lower time frame V-shape reversal. Right there. Aggressive down, aggressive back up. It just all depends on your personal preference and how you like to trade. Isn't it technically a fractal where AM would enter? You just so a lot of times, I'll talk about this real quick. So like a lot of times AM is entering the candle 2. So if we go here, right, AM is entering on candle 2, right, while I'm waiting for candle 3. Right, I can take this, I just need a little bit of a wider stop. you know, with NQ's range here, that was 165 points. Or I can wait for continuation entry, right? So a lot of times his entry is just the candle 2 entry and then continuation, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's, I mean, I can give you guys my most ideal scenario is this. Let's draw it out, because why not? Actually, I'll just use these. Sick. This is where we form a candle 2 closure, right? So you can see, close back inside candle 1. We have an order block here, and then we have a high resting here, or a low resting here, right? That's like my favorite setup, because then generally, I don't know what button I just hit. Lock cursor line by time. I gotta turn that off. Because I could take an entry here, my stop would have to be there. I can take a candle 2 entry here because most of the time that's where I want the low to form, right? If it closes candle 2 inside there, that's where I get pretty crazy risk to reward. Or when we close over this order block, now I have a new validated low from here, and then that, and that's trading that continuation. So like this is my A plus setup, right? If that makes sense. It's inducement, turtle soup, except this is what, so all the turtle soup people do wrong is they try to catch this low right here because they think it looks cool. Their stop all the way there. Instead of just letting the low form. So they don't show all the ones where they tried to catch the low and it goes and hits their stop loss, right? But then it looks cool when it's there, but if you notice, they never show their stop loss, right? Which is the most important part. All right, I think that's it. Yeah, end it here. Any final questions? Ask away. Otherwise, that is the stream. I'll give it 2 more minutes for questions and I'm gonna hop off. Thank you. Entered on, oh, AIM entered on the candle 3 wick. Yeah, then he traded the fractal model in a way. That's a combination. You can trade the fractal model by entering in candle 3 here. So for example, just go to NQ 1 minute here. Option R. Where are we? Oh, we're on replay. I'll just go to this example here. Right, like I can trade the retest. It didn't give it here. I can trade the retest in this next candle here. Right, my stop just needs to be up there. Right. Or I can really trade. Once you know where price is likely to draw to, and you know wicks and opposing candles, when we get these fake moves up and we form a high, I can just take an entry. So like that's, yeah. And then as I talked about with trailing stops, I'll actually do a quick lesson on this. So if I'm targeting the overnight lows here, and my risk to reward, right, from here, right, to there, it's 5R, cool. As we get closer to this target, right, I'm now risking more because unrealized profits is still risk in a way if you think about it. So what I do is then I trail, once I get here and we form this, I can trail my stop to here. Once we retest this, close below, I can trail my stop to here. And then as it's approaching my target, I can start to trail my stop a lot tighter, because how many people have had their, do this like that? It doesn't make sense to give up all of this for that. That's like very negative risk to reward. Let's take a look. See what I mean? So that's why, like, right when I'm about to my target, I like to kind of jam my stops up, if that's where I'm like taking my final profit, right? Not my partial. So, and I can show an example if you guys want, but sick. Yeah, it's happened to everyone, let's be real. And then what happens is this is what happens to most people. It misses, and then they get stopped out, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna long it now, and then it goes and runs it, and it's like they just take losses on both of these moves now. So why not just, oh, I'm just gonna take my profit there instead of there. Okay, I miss that little bit. If my risk to reward is from up here, what does, okay, yeah, I lose 0.22R or something, you know? I shorted where you shorted, but closed early thinking it's gonna run. I just trailed, yeah. I don't know what AM did. No idea. But if AM took a trade, it would have been, I don't know if he would have taken it. If he would have taken it, he would have been looking in here over this previous day high or the SMT with it. And that's where he might have actually refined down. The only trade I'd see him taking is something like this. Right, like that. And then there. He might have taken something like that. I don't know. We'll see if he did or not. I don't know what he's trading. I see it after, like, when we talk, but we don't really talk much when we're trading other than, yeah, we actually don't. So we both know our own models. So sick. All right, I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to hop off now so you don't have to hear me talk. Gonna end the live stream here.